Back on BTN Live, let's get hooked on phonics, shall we, fellas?
Okay.
Since Kevin Wilson took over in Bloomington a few years back, I would describe Indiana's offense as explosive. Now it's your turn.
One word?
One word.
Dynamic and fast-paced.
That's one word?
No, it's not. I just wanted to make sure I was breaking the rules.
Scary. If you're a defensive coordinator, it scares the heck out of
That
you.
wasn't one word either, Mace.
Scary.
Okay.
I did not expect for 1 second that either one of you guys was actually going to give me one-word answers. But those words certainly make the mastermind of that offense, Kevin Wilson, a perfect guy to talk to, not only about his own team, but about the so-called 29-second rule. Coach, yesterday an informal survey of FBS coaches revealed that 73%, nearly three-quarters of all head coaches, are against this defensive substitution rule. Where do you stand?
You know, I didn't vote in that survey. So to me, if it's defensive substitution, they're allowed right now to substitute as far as matching personnel. So you know, they're allowed to match if you match. If you're, you know, the ball can't be snapped till the referees get it and put in play. Seldom do the referees get it put in play inside of 29 seconds. That's only going to happen if the ball is tackled inside the hash marks and the ball is ready to play. I mean, it takes the mechanics of the referees to move around, get the ball back in play. I think last year we averaged a little bit more than 20 seconds per play to snap the ball. So there's a lot of dynamics there. What if the clock's at 25 seconds? Okay, because when there's an incomplete pass or a penalty, it goes to 25. When do you snap it then? If it's at 32 seconds and the offense substitutes, well, if all they need is 29 seconds to get a new player on the field, you don't have to stand over the ball now to match personnel, because is it about player safety? Is it about matchups? The game is dynamic right now. Teams are scoring more points. Crowds are better. Your TV exposure coverage is off the chart. Our game is at an all-time high with exciting games, and I like the offensive brand of ball. As a coach, we'll adjust to whatever the rules are. I'd love to be able to adjust going into spring ball and be able to practice the way I'm going to be held accountable in the fall. But, I like the way the game's being played right now, but I am about player safety for sure.
Coach, if it doesn't happen all that often, why is this such a great debate? And most people say you might snap it maybe 2 times in the first 10 seconds of the clock.
I don't know. You should ask the guys, I guess, that won't want the rule. I think the fastest team last year was 19 point. Now, there's been 19 point seconds per snap. There's actually been some guys, and I think the only way to merit the injuries, you just look at starters lost. There's, offensive, statistically, there's been more offensive starters lost to injury than defense. Statistically, teams that snap the ball and have more plays have had fewer injuries than teams without snapping. Injuries are a part of our game. We got to keep protecting the players. But I was in Carolina when Dean Smith ran the 4 corners, and they put it out. They wanted exciting games. They wanted the 35-second clock or the Pro 24. So I love the up-tempo part of the game. I think our game's at an all-time high, and I think you guys covering it would probably agree with that.
Kevin, the coaches that seem to want this rule, granted they're a minority, but most notably Nick Saban of Alabama, Brett Bielema from, Arkansas, defensive-minded coaches. When you look at your offense, number 2 in total offense in the conference and number 2 in scoring. Got to congratulate that. On the other side of the ball, defense left a lot to be desired, dead last in the league. You made some coaching changes. What specifically are you going to address this spring practice?
Well, again, starting with defense, again with our standard attitude, what we accept and don't accept, and practice habits, effort. We're looking structure-wise. Coach Brian Noel, we brought in from Wake Forest, has some background in with the 3-4, but we're going to look to what our personnel can do. So we'll probably be very, very multiple. We've got 10 starters back on defense, guys. I think we got the most starters back of any team in the conference. We've got back-to-back on paper, the 2 best years we've ever had. Our offense has been pretty dynamic. I think if you look at those final stats, we're actually first in the league in total offense. So I think we're 1 in pass, 1 in total, 2 in scoring, 4 in running. The defense is down here 12 in those categories. So we get that defense competitive up to par with all the starters back. I think some people, there's some disappointment in what's going on, but I think outside of defensive improvement, we're on schedule and got a chance to have a pretty positive and strong year this year. Really excited about what's coming up here in 2014.
Coach, you've done a really good job recruiting, especially your last 2 classes. And to get back to Mace's point about defense, how much more difficult is it to recruit defensive players at a program like Indiana that has historically struggled defensively?
Well, Coach, you know, we actually have talked a little bit on the side about that. You having been here and coached at several places and in developing your program, there's not as many great defensive players out there, and the quality programs are going to always maybe have a little tab on those guys. So we've got to do a better job of evaluating. I think we did a great job this year of evaluating some length, some range, some guys with mobility and athleticism to play better in space. The game is going to be played in space and making one-on-one tackles. We do have, I think, a great young nucleus of defensive front guys and front seven to build with. We've got to improve. But the last 2 years, Coach DiNardo, we've recruited about 14 and 15 each year of defensive players. So we've got some young kids. I'm excited to work with these guys because we've got to make some strides with defense here.
Kevin, one of the most exciting things about the style of play your team plays is that it's fun for the fans. I was in Bloomington for the Missouri game, the Saturday night game against an SEC team. The stands were nearly full. The excitement was in Bloomington. How much of an uptick have you seen since you arrived in the fan interest in the Indiana football program?
It's gaining, and we got to keep building on. Now we need to win, and we've been in some close games that we've been on the short end. We go 5-7 last year and come up short in 3 kind of close games against good teams. We got to get over a hump, Rich, and win those games, Rick. But we've got enough guys back and enough excitement. There's buzz, but they're waiting to see. I mean, we've got to make the plays on the field. We've got a challenging schedule again. We're going to Missouri. We're going to Bowling Green. We got North Texas and Indiana State in here. We got the Big Ten slate. We just got to get W's. We've got a great fan base. We've got awesome alums. They just need us to win. Our team's working. We've had a great winter. A lot of guys back, some great kids coming, and I'm telling you, I'm really excited about this team. I think we're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Hey, Coach, a lot of talk about, rule changes, and because of that, 2 old retired coaches, me and DiNardo, have been kind of bantering back and forth if we had our druthers, what rule we would like to see changed. If you could change a rule in college football, what would it be?
Oh, well, there's a lot of things I like. To me, I always want consistency from the referees from week to week, whether it be spotting the ball or how they're letting you play in the perimeter at the line of scrimmage. To me, there's a couple clock issues still in play, though. I think, there's just in this, we're not talking just a 29 second. If the clock's running and they stop a play to review and it's inside of 25 seconds, they put 25 seconds on. So there's some times at the end of the game, clock management's not proper. But I really think the rule we put into player safety with the illegal hits, we got to have a way to enforce that without throwing kids out of the game, without making sure there's some of those fringe penalties where some kids got some football taken away from them, where it's maybe a little closer. The hits went down, and protecting players, we've got to do that, but I think we've got to be a little smarter and maybe how that is enforced as far as ejecting some of those kids from the game.